And when the things that I don't control still end up as failure, I'm not thrown off by it. I don't lose a day. I don't walk around and sulk. Right. My story athletically was I'm not an athlete at all, but I played on very talented sports teams that won a lot.
Sure.
And I mistakenly thought that I was good instead of I was part of a system that had really good athletes. And the first time I failed was when I got to college. I didn't get playing time. And at the time it was just, but I didn't, now I look back, I didn't control what I controlled. I didn't work more. And I tried to control what I don't control. Coach needs to play me more because I didn't understand the difference between failing and failure. And in essence, I manifested, see what I did there? I manifested my failure.
Gotcha.
You're right. Like I manifested my own failure of, I became a failure. Because to me, one of the things I talk to my kids about is it's only failure when you stop or you keep going because you're too emotionally invested to stop. And so if you quit because you're mad, that's failing or failure. If you tried and it didn't work out, that's not necessarily failure. It might be failing.
No, you're right.
Right. But it's not failure.
So failing is the act of trying, coming up short and learning from it and living to fight another day.
Yes.
Failure is an identity you kind of take on where you start to think of yourself as a failure.
Yes.
And
or
you
blame
become
other
afraid
people
to take shots, right?
Yes, absolutely. You know, I always tell people, draw a stick figure, draw the circle around the stick figure. If you do want to see an illustration of this, it is on my website, right? But you draw a stick figure, draw a circle around that, a square around the circle. You're the stick figure. The circle is everything you control. The square is everything you don't control. Failure is, okay, well, my book didn't sell. It's because my marketing team didn't do what I told them to do. Or people just don't recognize genius. I don't know. I mean, stuff people say, right? My coach didn't play me. It is that one. Right, right. And I push it off on other people, right? Rather than like, you know, how much time do I give to this? How much have I controlled what I control? And failure is this idea of, well, it didn't work out because Mark wronged me. You know, or the professor gave, you know, the old joke about grades. You get an A, I earned an A. You get a C, the professor gave me a C.
Absolutely.
You know.
Well, this has been a great discussion, and I hope you guys see too. Joe really understands the connection that you're a whole person. So like you go to work as a professional, you go home and you call it your personal life, but really the same skills of relational intelligence and emotional intelligence are at play in both realms. Like, did you hear how Joe said, you know, you're going to fail as a professional and have to get up and keep going, but also at home and relating to his spouse, his starting point is that he will fail. And so when it happens, he can own it and make it right. And you can carry the same attitude both places. That's really helpful because I think a lot of Gen Z and young millennials starting the professions are also starting young families. And a lot of overwhelm comes from, well, how hard it is to do life well as a young family with, like, combined with how hard it is to start in your profession. So that's just great advice.
And the whole idea that you have to be perfect or you are a failure. You and I both know families, you cannot be perfect if you're awake with your family. It just isn't going to work. Right. You know, I've got 4 kids. They're all different. My wife, it's just not, there's not going to be perfect. And if my standard is I'm either perfect or I'm a failure, I'm in a heap of trouble. It's another F word that isn't failure, but.
Absolutely. Well, Joe, thanks so much for coming on. And again, the Joe Martino Show is his podcast, and you can head to www.joemartino.com for Joe's World. And there's a lot to be learned and gained there. So I hope you check it out. Thanks, Joe.
Mark. Thank you. I appreciate it. It's good to see you.
Absolutely. You too.